Alright, so this is my synthetic underquilt. It has the Clew suspension on it. This is just a random stuff sack that I had laying around, and I've been using it the last couple months. But this is kind of a working prototype. I figured I was going to have some issues with the Clew suspension, so I wanted to try it for a while, figure out what all issues there were, and then try to fix them, make it a little bit better. One of the issues is with the Clew suspension. When you take it out of the stuff sack, you see it could be a pretty tangled mess. It's pretty easy to get untangled. I've left these cords, these long cords here from the braiding up here where you weave it. I've left them on there because I knew I was going to be taking it apart at some point. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to get untangled, but still it's just kind of a tangled mess, just kind of looks bad. And so that's one issue. And another issue is originally I followed Jellyfish on YouTube, how she made the whole underquilt, and it had these ascender rings that you just slip over the end of your continuous loop on your hammock, and then it would just sit on the peak of your hammock and hold it up. Well, one thing that happened with this was that it would hold fine for, several times taking it out, and then you'd have one night where it would just work its way down over the head of this and come way down the hammock, and then that would leave gaps in between the underquilt and you and cooler air, plus it would change the way your hammock's hanging. And if it happened one time that night, it would happen several times, but then you could use it for 3 or 4 nights again and not have an issue. But every once in a while it would be an issue. First time it happened to me was with a single layer, and then I've had it happen with my double layer. My wife's had it happen with her double layer. One thing I just kind of messing around with, I tried, was this, just to see if it would work. I took out the ascender ring, put some gross gain on here, and I had this, my continuous loop slips through there, and I could just disconnect the underquilt that way. That was just wanted to get an idea if it worked. So what I'm going to do now to try to remedy this, and I'll see you today, is I'm going to put a piece of fabric up here that'll be sewn between these different channels. Between these different strands of cord. There'll be like a seam here and then another seam here to keep them all separated. And I'm going to try that. And then I've got a different way I want to do this with kind of line locks and stuff, and the carabiner on the end. And the reason I want to do that is I'll use some lightweight Zing It. But one of the issues I've had that I just don't really like is, imagine if this was your hammock. When you put that underquilt on with the shock cords and everything, it pulls so tight that it will lift up your whole hammock, way up near the ridge line. And if you want to just go sit in it for 20 minutes during the day, you got to get in there and make sure the underquilt's right and the hammock kind of separated, and get everything so you're not sitting on the underquilt and just fall to the ground. And it's just a hassle. I just don't like it. So using the line locks and the Zing It to attach up here to the continuous loops, I'm hoping I can let slack out of it so it can hang looser under there hammock during the day, and then before I went to bed I can just tighten it back up, and it would fit snug against me. And another thing is, people of different weights. Like if I have it up tight and it's really, if it pulls so tight that when I'm not in a hammock it lifts the hammock way up, there's got to be some degree that I'm compressing the insulation, even though it really doesn't feel like it. But It has to be if it's that tight. So if I'm in there and then use it, and then somebody else uses that underquilt, and they're 60 or 80 pounds heavier than me, and it's got the same tension, then they're definitely going to be compressing the insulation, which will reduce the effectiveness of it. So my plan in making these adjustable on each end is you could set it, kind of based on the weight of the person, and you could also just let some slack in it just to let it hang out of the way during the day, so you can just lounge in your hammock. So that's my plan today. I'm going to try this, and then once I get it done, I'm going to take it out, set up my hammock, and try it out outside. So I had two ways that I was going to try to choose from to make the securement of the underquilt to the hammock adjustable. One of them was the slide lock. I was going to use the Zing-It and the slide lock and be lighter weight, wouldn't take much room. But I noticed if you take this, say this is attached to the hammock, if you're moving around at night in the underquilt, it especially if it gets at a little bit of an angle, see how it could kind of start slipping, how that cord's drawn up in there. So, and I mean, if you got weight on there all the time, it locks solid. But if you're moving around and the cord's kind of jiggling, especially if it gets twisted off a little bit to the side, it definitely starts loosening up. So that's not a really good option. My other option were these things, these buckles. I can't remember what they're called right this second, but it locks really well. It's got teeth inside of there, locks down, so you can adjust it, get it the way you want it, the height and everything, loosening the underquilt or tightening the underquilt. But once you put that down, that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't move at all. It's a little bit bigger, weighs ounces or grams more. I really don't care about that stuff personally. I just wanted to work and be solid. I would hate to save a fraction of an ounce to use this, and then my underquilt loosens in the middle of the night, and now I'm cold because air is getting in there. The little bit of extra added weight. This is solid. It's not going to go anywhere, and so that's the one I'm going to go with on this test. So I'll put one of these on each end of the Clew suspension, and from here I'll have another piece of gross gain that goes up to where I can slip a D-ring in there and clip it to my continuous loop, and then that'll solve the problem for adjusting. And I've got two pieces of material here. I'm going to make, got them cut out, I'm going to make like a cover for the shock cord of the suspension, and it'll have channels going through the fabric that the individual shock cords will go through, and see how that works. Okay, so I sewed the two pieces of fabric to sandwich the shock cords, and it didn't work well. I didn't think it would really, but it's worth a try. See, I wanted to sew it attached to the clips here on the underquilt, but then this is shaped, you'll see when I pull it out, it's shaped like a triangle, and if I attached it to the bottom, and then whenever the shock cord stretched, when I got in the hammock, the shock cord stretched and spread out, then it would end up ripping the fabric. So I tried attaching it up to the top, to the peak of that, and it just didn't work. I mean, I guess, see, I sewed a little bit between the channels. Don't pay any attention to the stitching. This was just a real quick slap it together to see if it would work thing. But it keeps them separated, but it just looks like crap. And I've never really had any problem with with it stuff getting tangled up anyway. It looks kind of like a mess when you first pull it out, and maybe the part that attaches to the hammock might be twisted under a cord or two, but it only takes a second to undo that, and then it's ready to set up. So I think this was a big fail. I mean, I guess maybe it helped some, but it just, I'm not happy with it at all. But I did hook up these adjusters. I don't have any carabiners. I thought I had some small carabiners with me. I mean at the house, and I didn't have any, so I just had to I'm just going to stick my continuous loop through here for now. It'll work the same way, but I'll set this up and show you. Okay, so this is what I was talking about how high it lifts up the cords. Have so much tension on them that it lifts the hammock way up by the ridge line. And to try to get in the hammock, of course you got to kind of do this anyway with any underquilt. You got to make sure that you're laying on the hammock and not just laying down on the underquilt and just fall to the ground. But just with all that tension, the underquilt, I mean the hammock keeps wanting to fall out of the underquilt, and you can get in there and get situated, but it just, I don't know, just not real happy with it. So what I did, I've never been happy with that, but so what I did is I just put these locks on here, and you can just loosen up the tension. Just get it so it's laying a lot better. Just a lot easier to get in and out of the hammock. If you want to, just during the day, if you just want to kick back and relax a little bit, just so much easier. You're not really fighting the underquilt. It's still kind of tied up against you, but it's out of the way. I haven't cut these strings yet, or the rest of this gross game, because I wanted to. I want to fiddle with it a little bit and make sure I got the length that I want before I cut it. But then you get ready to go to bed, you can just tighten it up. Same thing on the other side, and it's nice. It's going to be nice and tight up against you. Pretty nice. Alright, I got the tension adjusted back on the underquilt, and I'm going to lay back down in it for a second. You can see it still fits pretty tight, and up here on the peak of the webbing, I didn't do the weave. I got to go through and do that. Do the weave on there on the top of the shot cords. I didn't want to have to go through and do all that, and then find out I needed to adjust it some more and have to redo it. So right now some of the lines are crossed, and some of these lines up here up top are crossed. I got to straighten them out and everything, and then weave it. But I just wanted to make sure it was going to be right before I did all that work and have to redo it again possibly. But the adjusters work, and putting the fabric on the other side. I got the fabric, the cord sandwiched in between two pieces of fabric. That did not work at all.